Okay, we're going to go over shift patterns. That is the adding of a shift pattern, replacing someone in a shift pattern, or removing someone from a shift pattern. I'm going to start with, in my filter, I've gone to the scheduling page, the calendar icon. I've selected evening shift on the east wing, and I'm going to put in some patterns now, some people to cover. I'd like to have two people every day in this position, so I'm going to try to create some patterns to do that. So I'll start with the first one up here, and I'm going to do some 4-2 patterns. I'm going to click on Saturday the 3rd, and I'm going to select a person to be my first person to put in a 4-2 pattern. I'm going to select set shift pattern. I have the ability to do add, replace, or remove. I'm going to do add, and I'm going to start on Saturday the 3rd, and I'm going to end on, I usually try to put my patterns well in advance because you can always replace people in that same pattern, but I usually try to go all the way to December 31st, 2020, and then extend it thereafter. I'm going to look for the employee to assign. I'm going to select John Anderson, and I'm going to give him a 4-2 pattern. Patterns are always done in pairs, days on and days off. A 4-2 pattern is quite common in the long-term industry, but the pattern could be a 5-2, meaning 5 days on, 2 days off. It could be 4 days on, 3 days off. It could be a series of groups of patterns of 4-1, 4-2, 2-1. That's a common pattern for every other weekend off. But patterns are always start with days on, end with days off. And usually they end up in a number divisible by 7. It's a repeating pattern. A 4-2 pattern repeats itself over a 7-week period, so it takes a while for it to completely come back around. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the 4-2, instead of putting 4-2 7 different times, it's going to put 1-4-2, and then it will still do that pattern. And I go down below, and I process that just to make sure I've checked everything. I've had the start date, which is very important for the pattern, the end date, and the employee, and I put add, and then I put the days on and then days off. I hit the process button. It asks if I want to notify the employee. Normally I don't do that when I put a pattern in, but if you want to, you could tell an employee that they've got their new schedule by putting their pattern in and notifying them. I'm going to say no here. And then I'm going to go, takes me back to the shift details box, and I'm going to click off of that. And you'll know it's putting 1 day in. It's actually the little minions in the computer are working and trying to put John Anderson all the way across for the next 3 years in that pattern. If I go up to the recycle or refresh button here next to the go, I can hit that, and I can see now they've done a little more work, and they'll continue to do work as we put other patterns in. Because they're working in the background, sometimes you'll get a timeout button that will come up here, and you just can click OK. So I've got John in there working those 2 days, and I'm going to try to get someone else that will help me with this pattern on a regular basis, so I can try to get 2 people each day. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick someone on this Monday here to work a pattern, shift Monday the 5th. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to set shift pattern, and I'm going to go up here to Monday the 5th, and I'm going to go all the way until December 31st, 2020. Click on that calendar button. There are some keyboard shortcuts to do this, or you can type in the date also. I'm going to select the employee, and I'm going to put in Susan Fisher. For this pattern, I'm going to do the same 4-2 pattern and process that. Say, no, I do not want to contact her. And I'm going to go ahead and click out of this box. And as I mentioned before, go ahead and hit the refresh button to see the patterns it's working on. The background's already put John's pattern in. Probably still working on John's pattern in future months, but I'm now starting Susan's pattern here. And then I'm thinking, how can I get someone, if I look at these 2 patterns that I'm trying, there's a timeout error, as we talked about, that comes up when you're putting long-term patterns in. And I'm trying to get someone else. I've got people for 2 days there, but I'm missing people. I only have 1 person or each of these days, so I need another 4-2 person here. I'm going to click on the 7th. Actually, I might want to go backwards. I'm going to go from the 7th. It will help me see where I need to get second person, but I'm going to go all the way back to the 1st here to start this pattern, because I'll have that person work 4 consecutive days here. And I'll go set shift pattern starting on the 1st of February. The end date is going to be December 31st, 2020. Here, put that in. Hit December 31st. And I'm going to go ahead and put in another individual here. I'll go down the list and put in Michaela Townsend here. I'll put hers as 4/2. And as I put her pattern in, then I go down to the process button below. And I'm not going to notify her as an employee. And I'm going to go ahead and click out of that and go ahead and hit the refresh button. And I'll see the 3 people now that I have put into patterns. Susan's pattern is all the way across, right there. At that point, right there, I can see that. I'm going to hit the refresh button to see all of the individuals I have now in this pattern. And as you can see now, starting the 3rd of February, I essentially have 2 people for this shift, always with these 3 individuals with a 4/2 pattern. These patterns are now in long term, so if I jump to March, I can look at March. And these patterns are essentially going on in perpetuity, the days on and days off. I'm going to go back to February. If I hit this little download button on the green bar over here, it will then look to see what my target is for each day and show me if I have any unders or overs on those days from what I want to have. And as you can see in March, I have nothing up here because every day I have 2 people. My target is 2, and so I don't have any overs or under. But if Susan called in sick right here, like this, and I put in that she was sick, another timeout error came up because of the work in the background. I put in she was sick here, and I recorded that. And then I went back and put in here the download button. I would see that I was down 1 person now in February, or actually I'm in March right now. Should change this so you can see it. And go ahead and go back into March. You can see that absence there. And I went and hit the download button to see if I have any overs or unders, meaning that if I had too many people scheduled or too little people scheduled. And it's looking at each particular day, and it's going to show me I'm going to be under 1 for that day, and the rest of the days I'm good. And usually when I'm under, I go in and just go down to another shift down below, and I create an open in the app shift, meaning I'm publishing that for people to pick up that shift. I hit the open in app. And once it spins and puts that into place, it will show open the app right here. And I go ahead and close it. And now when I refresh this and hit this download button again, you're going to see that I have the over under will appear here, but also the day that I have an under shift, I also have an open the app shift. And that's what I want to have, because I want to be marketing those shifts that I have open on a regular basis, because the employees that have more chance the employee will pick it up in advance. So I've got a nice schedule going in February, starting February in this particular shift, the evening CNA shift. I've got 3 people, but let's say someone leaves. And that's where you start using the remove and replace button. I only would use the remove if I'm getting rid of that pattern altogether. But let's say John A is going to leave employment with our facility. And so I go up to the hard hat icon, I look for John Anderson, and I say, let's delete John Anderson's schedule. He's going to leave employment with us. Let's delete it the 6th of February forward, and I'm going to say, let's go ahead and make him, or we'll make him inactive. Remove all the shifts from that point, and we'll make him inactive. Now I go back to the schedule now. I look back at that evening CNA shift that I pulled up earlier. I'm going to see now where John Anderson was, there's a UA, there's an unassigned. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I need someone in that position. The first thing I'm going to do is change that unassigned to open. I'm going to click on that date, which is Tuesday the 6th, and I'm going to go set shift pattern, and I'm going to do a replace here, and I'm going to start the date of the 6th, and I'm going to the end date. I'm going to go again all the way until December 31st, 2020. Click on that 31st date, and the new employee to assign is open the app, and the employee to replace all the way down at the bottom of the list always is unassigned. And I'm going to hit process. I'm going to say no to notify any employees. I'm going to click the X, and then I'm going to do the refresh button here. And now John's old position, his pattern, now has open shifts there, where someone can fill those open shifts. They're being published for people to pick up those shifts, as you see here. That still allows me, if I went to go look at my my over and unders over here in February now, I'm going to see a bunch of days where I'm under 1. Every time John was supposed to come in, I'm going to be under 1. But I always want to have those open shifts the days he's not going to come in, so they're published for people to pick up. And you can see that here. And you'll see when people pick up on the app, their names will go right into these open shifts, be picked up. Well, let's say I found someone to take John's place that's going to start the 9th. So I click on the 9th here, and I say set shift pattern. And now I'm going to replace the new person with opening the app. So starting the 9th of February and ending all the way to December 31st, 2020, I'm going to select a new person to substitute that same spot. It's like it's a revolving door, if you will, of opening the app and an employee, but you're keeping that master schedule alive, so you always have the ability to refresh it, put someone else in there. So I'm going to go in here now, and I'm going to put in Julio Gonzalez. He's the employee to sign, and he's going to replace open in the app on that particular line. As you notice, when I do the replace or when I do remove things, I do not put a pattern in, because all the replace is doing is looking down that line, and everywhere in this case, everywhere open in the app is put in the open says in that line, I'm going to put Julio Gonzalez in its place. Just going down that line. Doesn't care about a pattern, just looking down that particular shift line. I'm going to hit the process button here. Just like to notify employee and say no. And then after I click out of this and I come in and refresh, you see the open line is going to change. After I hit the refresh, it's going to change to Mr. Gonzalez now, Julio Gonzalez now in this place. So I've kept this pattern alive. Julio is now in that place, Susan and Michaela. And these will change over the months and years, but at least we have a consistent pattern system where they all keep it alive, where there's 2 people there each day. And then when someone's sick, we fill in down below. That's how you use the add, replace, and remove. I didn't speak much about the remove, but the remove, if you click on a certain day, you're going to change someone's pattern completely, and you don't want that pattern left. You would simply pick on the day and hit set shift pattern and go up here and remove. And from that day forward, that would be taken out, and there would be nothing left there for any kind of a pattern. So that's only a remove is only when you're taking something out, never to use it again, because it leaves no trace of what you had before in the future. Thank you.